Welcome to 5 Good Minutes.
You're listening to today's inspirational message on the book of Ecclesiastes with Kurt Bjorklund.
Chapter 12, the ending of the book of Ecclesiastes, begins this way. Remember your Creator in the days of your youth, before the days of trouble come, and the years approach you when you say, I find no pleasure in them. Before the sun and the light and the moon and the stars grow dark, and the clouds return after the rain, when the keepers of the house tremble and the strong men stoop, when the grinders cease because they are few, and those looking through the windows grow dim, when the doors to the street are closed and the sound of grinding fades, when people rise up at the sound of birds, but all their songs grow faint, when people are afraid of heights and of dangers in the streets, when the almond trees blossom and the grasshopper drags itself along, and desire no longer is stirred, then people will go to their eternal home, and mourners go about the streets. Remember him before the silver cord is severed, and the golden bowl is broken, before the pitcher is shattered at the spring, and the wheel broken at the well, and dust returns to the ground it came from, and the spirit returns to God who gave it. Meaningless, meaningless, says the teacher. Everything is meaningless. Everything is vain. Everything is just this dust. And so here's what he's saying. He's saying there's coming a day when the decline of everything is inevitable. And if you've had an aging parent or grandparent, you've seen this. My wife and I found some home videos recently, and her father died a year or two ago now. And it's sweet when we see pictures and video of him with our kids, with the other grandkids. And he was so young and full of life compared to the last years of his life. And it's interesting to watch that progression, because you realize as you see it that is my fate. That's everybody's fate. Sooner or later, we all end up as older people in decline. And so again, what he's doing here is he's saying, understand the cycle of life, the brevity of life, the lack of control that you have, and embrace the days that you have. Honor God in these days. In fact, that is how he concludes this whole thing. He says this, verse 13, now all has been heard. Here's the conclusion of the matter. Fear God and keep his commands. This is the duty of all mankind. For God will bring everything into judgment, including every hidden thing, whether good or evil. So he says, understand that at the end of everything, God will not be mocked. But at the same time, he's saying, no, that this life isn't meaningless. It isn't inconsequential. How you live is not inconsequential, because God is still paying attention to everything. But he's also saying, I want you to know that this life with its culmination is still going somewhere. But understand what will be evaluated ultimately. It's the secret things, the hidden things. It's the things that God sees that will be the things that he looks at and says, that has been your duty, and that is the way that I will see how you have lived. Now, if you listen to yesterday, I talked about judgment, the way that the word was used in chapter 11, and the idea that God will bring everything into judgment. And then this is used again in verse 11. And this is a much bigger topic than probably I can get into in this podcast, this idea of judgment. But I believe that often this idea of Christians, that their life is somehow under the same scrutiny that it was before coming to faith in Jesus Christ, undermines the idea of what judgment is, because judgment is this idea that God has set you free, that because of God there is now no condemnation. Of what Christ has done, there is no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. And what that means is that when you keep going back to this idea of a meticulous judgment of everything that you ever say or do as a wrong that God's keeping score of and is going to set right, instead of saying, no, this life is about honoring God, yes, without a doubt, But if I'm forgiven because of Jesus, then I don't need to fear that future judgment in that way. I can live with confidence here and now.
Thanks for joining us here today. There's a lot of great content to explore on Orchard Hill Plus and on the Orchard Hill main feed from the weekend. Have a great day.